Okay, good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone. Thank you for joining us live from many countries and many schools today. Thank you for joining us from Zoom, and welcome to the Policy Dialogue on the Climate Change and Girls' Education in ASEAN. And particularly for this event, we are focusing on the youth engagement in SDGs. And just a little bit of background about the events first. So this event is the final part of the Girls' Education and Climate Change in ASEAN project, delivered by the British Council with the support of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education, or SEAMEO Secretariat, and funded by the UK government's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, or the FCDO. The program itself aims to strengthen the awareness and importance of the intersectionality between two sustainable development goals and key global challenges, which are climate change and girls' education, both of which are the UK priorities. And to create such change, we are bringing in the voices of different stakeholders, from policymakers, experts to practitioners, through sharing best practices and opinions. And more importantly, we are very, very keen to empower the younger generations to take actions and to engage them to be the key part of the wider conversation, not just the two global issues, but the critical global challenges at large. And that's why, as you can see from our program today, we do have quite a great number of lineups coming for you, from schools who took part in the Raising Awareness poster competition, sharing reports from experts, to a panel of youth voices from communities, local networks, to government sectors and regional officials, as well as experts from education sector in ASEAN, working across the multiple SDGs. But just a little bit of housekeeping from me before we go into the actual event. So in case you are not aware, so at the moment, we are currently in the Zoom webinar function. So please do know that as a participant, you are unable to turn on your camera or microphone at this stage, but you will still be able to type in your questions in the Q&A box. So make sure to go into the Q&A box beneath your screen, type in your questions for any of the speakers that you would like to ask. And if you want to ask any particular speakers, do type in the name of the speakers as well. Please note that this event will be fully recorded, and we will be sharing you the link to the recordings after the event has been completed. And we do encourage you to very much be engaged with our speakers throughout the whole sessions. There's also the chat box function beneath as well. So the chat box will be used for any major announcement and sharing the links to the key documents. So make sure to check out the announcement box for links to our websites, to our key documents, including the posters. So that's it, of a little bit of housekeeping from me. So without further ado, let's start the event. And now I'd like to proceed to the welcoming and introductory remarks. So first off, from the partners of the programs, I'd like to invite the Director of Education and Society for British Council East Asia, Leighton Ensberger. Over to you, Leighton.
Thank you, Bank, and welcome, everybody. On behalf of the British Council, I'd like to say good morning to all of our colleagues in Europe and the UK, and good afternoon to everybody joining us from the region. I'm pleased to welcome you to the Policy Dialogue on Climate Change and Girls' Education in ASEAN, the Southeast Asia, Youth Engagement in the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. We have undertaken this initiative in partnership with the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education organization, otherwise known as SEAMEO, the SEAMEO Secretariat, and it is funded by the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office by the UK government. The British Council, hopefully, as you know, is the UK's global cultural relations organization. We do a lot of work across education, English, and the arts. And equality, diversity, and inclusion is central to how we do everything in our work. Strong focus on women and girls, strong focus on all elements of inclusion. And to some extent, climate has started to become one of those areas where people can be sort of overly affected by climate change compared to others. And so, while we aren't necessarily a climate change expert organization, it's essential to our work that we bring an awareness and an engagement around issues related to climate change as part of our work. So working in girls' education and on climate change is really important and core to our mission. The project supports the FCDO's, Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office's 5-year strategy for girls' education, which makes consistent reference to the criticality of addressing the impact of climate change and advancing the key objectives of increasing access and improving quality of education for girls. And you'll hear more on that soon and through other speakers. The policy dialogue will be an opportunity to engage with policymakers, academics, and young people in a conversation about how better to strengthen awareness and engagement of schools and young people in conversations surrounding the Sustainable Development Goals. This policy dialogue is the final element of our wider project on strengthening awareness of the intersectionality between climate and girls' education among young people in the ASEAN region, and providing a platform for youth engagement in designing and sharing wider solutions specific to Southeast Asia. Today, we'll be giving you a background of the project, showcase some comments from the students who won the infographic poster competition, and hear from an expert in the field. We will then widen the scope out to hear from young people and policymakers on best practice and lessons learned in engaging and empowering young people to take an active role in the Sustainable Development Goals, with the aim of generating ideas for how to do this better going forwards. I truly hope that this policy dialogue will further the ambition and the outcomes we hope to achieve in this critical area, working with you and our partners to help you achieve your own objectives. And finally, again, I would like to thank SEAMEO RIHED, the Regional Institute for Higher Education Development under the SEAMEO Secretariat, for their partnership in this project. And thank you, our colleagues in the UK and Southeast Asia, for your involvement. I wish you all a fruitful discussion ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Leighton, for your introductory remarks. So up next, we do have another remarks, please, from the director of SEAMEO Secretariat, but she's unfortunately not being able to be here with us today. So she has indeed sent her recordings and her regards to the event instead. So this is Dr. Ethel Agnes Pacua Valenzuela. Over to you.
Dr. Tang Ok Tri, Deputy Director General, Department of Primary Education, Ministry of Education and Training of Vietnam, Mr. Leighton Erzberger, Director of Education and Society, East Asia, British Council, Ms. Alicia Herbert O, Director of the Education, Gender and Equality, and Special Envoy for Gender Equality, the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office of United Kingdom, Ms. Helga Stelmascher, Country Director of British Council of Thailand, honorable speakers, winners of the Climate Change and Girls Education Infographic Poster Competition, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, Sawadee Ka. It is my great pleasure and honor as the SEAMEO Secretariat Director to welcome you to the Policy Dialogue on Climate Change and Girls Education in ASEAN, Youth Engagement in SDGs, that we partnered with the British Council, our affiliate member since 2010, and the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, or FCDO, who jointly organized this virtually today. Congratulations to the winners of the Climate Change and Girls Education Infographic Poster Competition from Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are a universal call to end poverty, protect the planet, improve the lives and prospects of everyone and everywhere. The 17 goals were adopted by all the UN member countries since 2015 as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This sets out a 15-year plan to achieve the SDG goals. SEAMEO, as an intergovernmental organization, supports SDGs through cooperation in education, in science, and in culture. We also realize our spirit of global citizenship and will continue to work towards achieving sustainable development goals. Acknowledging that the core of this goal is indeed an action taken by all of us to tackle growing poverty, empowering women and girls, and addressing climate emergencies. It is our great honor and great opportunity to collaborate with the British Council and FCDO to make this policy dialogue, particularly on climate action, inclusive quality education, and gender equality, including previous related programs and activities, to happen. This policy dialogue today is a platform for policymakers, experts, and stakeholders to hear from young people, academicians, share their knowledge and experiences, and discuss on the potential collaboration so that together we can mitigate the impact of climate crisis and thus improve girls' education in our region. Meanwhile, we would like to present this platform for youth engagement and empowering them to discuss issues and possible ways by which we can collaborate and take action on sustainable development. May I express my appreciation to the British Council and FCDO and all the member countries who have joined this very important endeavor for co-organizing this very timely event. Those who are joining us as honorary speakers, thank you very much. Thank you for dedicating your time and contributing to this discussion. Together, we can achieve SDG goal number 4 on quality education, on SDG 5 on gender equality, and SDG 13 on climate action. Last but not least, I wish you all a productive dialogue and look forward to the outcomes of the deliberations on that note. Thank you very much. Kapun ka.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ethel, for your great remarks. Yeah, so now we do have 2 opening remarks, please. So I'd like to now go over to our first opening remarks presenter. So this is the Senior Education Advisors for the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. May I please invite Ian Atfield. Over to you, Ian. And you're on mute. Ian, I think you're on mute. I'm sorry. Nope, we still can't hear you, unfortunately. Okay. All right. I think we indeed do have some technical errors. Oh, I think we.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. For some reason, my computer seemed to have switched microphone. I have no idea why it worked in the test. Apologies, everybody. So delighted to be here. I'm representing the FCDO Gender Envoy Director Alicia Herbert today. I'm the Senior Regional Education Advisor based in Kathmandu, Nepal. The UK is planning to strengthen our engagement with ASEAN partners since the UK became formally an ASEAN Dialogue partner last year. It was a pleasure to engage with SEAMEO Director Dr. Ethel in our Education Commission Workforce Transformation event last year. I had the pleasure of meeting a number of ASEAN education leaders at the Education World Forum that took place last month in London. I'm a passionate advisor for the power of girls' education. I work on the Girls' Education Challenge, the UK's flagship programme for girls' education that works right across Africa and Asia. Having worked for 25 years across this region and in Africa, I'm deeply concerned about climate change. I'm concerned about the challenge it poses to education, to the achievement of the SDGs, as Ethel heard, and to the very future of our planet Earth. Frankly, I believe that unless we quickly get a grip on the climate crisis, our combined efforts to secure a better world for future generations, represented by the young people we'll hear from today, will have been wasted. We must focus on how climate change is currently devastating the lives of children, in particular in lower income countries who live on the front line of the climate crisis today. The COVID pandemic has seized our attention in the last 2 years, but meanwhile, extreme weather events are happening more often, and this is disrupting education of nearly 40 million children every year. The impact of climate change is hit especially hard on women and girls. 4 out of every 5 people forced to leave their home due to climate change are women and girls, and they are much more likely to die in extreme weather events. A staggering 200 million adolescent girls live on the front line of the climate crisis. For every step we take forward on education, climate change takes us 2 steps back, as resources to tackle disasters are diverted to survive instead of supporting children to learn. Education is an essential part of the solution. Quality education builds the resilience of girls and their communities, training to cope with challenges and reduce vulnerability to weather-related disasters. It helps girls not only to survive, but education helps girls to thrive in our changing world. We know that children and young people hold the keys to the future and have the passion and potential to change the course of history. We have a responsibility to equip them to do so. Currently, we are failing children and young people in far too many places. In lower income countries, schooling does not meet the needs of children, with 9 out of 10 still not being able to read properly by the end of primary school. Basic literacy and numeracy matters because they are key building block to accessing further knowledge and skills. We must make sure the curriculum, teaching and learning materials are relevant to children's realities and equip them to both cope and respond, including how to understand the impact of climate change in their local communities and how to mitigate and adapt to that reality. The UK's leadership at COP26 last year was explicit that tackling climate change is in the UK's #1 priority. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson has made a personal commitment that we will stand up for the right of all girls to 12 years of quality education. At the G7 summit, they endorsed 2 new global targets to get 40 million more girls into school and 20 more million being able to read adequately by the age of 10 over the next 5 years. The UK has also hosted the Global Education Summit last year that raised over $4 billion for the Global Partnership for Education. There are many immediate and urgent goals, global crises and priorities, but we must not lose sight of the next generation's educational needs. So I really look forward to hearing today about the work that the British Council and SEAMEO have been leading in the ASEAN region to engage young people, teachers, education practitioners and policymakers in the critical relationship between girls' education and climate change. We need practical examples such as this of initiatives that empower schools and communities to make changes that will both improve resilience and adaptation now, but also mitigate against future damage to our planet. Thank you very much, and apologies for the technical problems at the start. Back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ian, and no worries on the technical errors. I think we've all been there, aren't we? Okay, thank you very much, Ian. And now we'd like to go over to the final opening remarks speaker. So now may I please invite the Deputy Director General for the Department of Primary Education of Ministry of Education and Training from Vietnam. Please welcome Dr. Thang Ngoc Chi. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon from Hanoi. As you know, my name is Thang Ngoc Chi. I am currently working as the Deputy Director General of the Primary Education Department, Ministry of Education and Training of Vietnam. I am very pleased to be here with you all today, and many thanks to the British Council for the invitation. I would like firstly to take this opportunity to express our thanks to the British Council and SEAMEO Secretariat for their endeavors in holding this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, at the moment, perhaps all the countries in the world in general, in our 11 countries participating in this event, are coping with climate change. We may see the serious impact of climate change on our normal life when going out during daytime under the hot weather to more than 40 degrees centigrade in Hanoi or in Bangkok. All know that we must do something or we are too late. Education is one of the most important areas relating to kinds of solutions to cope with climate change. In SDG 4, there are indicators related to this one. That is because human beings are one of the most important factors contributing to climate change, making it even more severe. In particular, women and girls can have a significant influence and impact on how we respond to climate change by being more environmentally responsible. So, if we can educate children, including girls, to live in a greener way, that will surely help us cope with climate change. Raising young people's awareness and getting them actively involved in such issues at an early age could contribute to such a shift. On this point, our Vietnam Ministry of Education Training pays constant attention to these issues. We understand that we must furnish our youngsters with knowledge about climate change and how to deal with these serious problems. In 2018, Vietnam approved a new national curriculum, one that includes not only knowledge of environment protection in general, but also climate change knowledge in particular. Moreover, we Vietnamese educators want our children not only to have the knowledge, but also know how to have a green life and then act so that together we may defend the environment and cope well with climate change. To fulfill this goal, our Ministry of Education Training of Vietnam is not alone. We have had support from the community and also support from many organizations, such as UNICEF Vietnam or British Councils. MOIT and others have organized many projects or activity or events to support our teachers, our educational administrators, and our students in tackling climate change. Allow me to share examples of some of them supported by UNICEF Vietnam. The research project Clean Energy for Climate Smart Schools in Vietnam, developing and institutionalizing a national climate smart school framework, hosting 1-minute green video challenge campaign, etc. Or the river supply climate action projects initiated by British Council in the Mekong Delta is another example. We cannot take all of them here. Thank you all very much for your support. Ladies and gentlemen, school will be a very important place to help us cope with climate change. But how can we do it, especially in our 11 countries? We should discuss it and find the best way to bring this issue to schools, from the teachers teaching or policy implementation. We hope that through this forum, we may share with each other lessons we have experience in practice in each country, so that we may learn from each other to do better in the near future. One of the key factors, which is the focus of this event, is for girls' education. We are very happy when we have this forum to discuss these issues. This is not only because women account for more than half of the world population, but also because they will become the key persons in each family later in life. In Vietnam, we already guarantee equality in education between boys and girls. We are very happy to say that there are no difference in Vietnamese schools when treating boys and girls. Even in designing and reviewing textbooks, Ministry of Education and Training of Vietnam approved a criteria to make sure that there is no gender inequality. We always do our best to build a good school environment for girls' schooling. We are really keen to hear the experience from our colleagues in ASEAN and Timor-Leste regarding this, so that we may learn in our practice. So, I do not want to take more time, any more of the time. Once again, I would like to thank British Council, SEAMEO Secretariat, and other related partners for holding this event. May we wish you all a fruitful discussion and a very successful workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shi. Okay, so that's it for our opening remarks and introductory remarks for this afternoon. So our next session, we will be going into more details about what the project is all about, and which I'm very, very excited to invite my colleague. This is the Country Director of British Council, Thailand, Helga Stelmacher. Over to you, Helga.
Thank you, Bank. And good morning, good afternoon, and I'm very pleased to just give you, I've just got 5 minutes to give you an overview of the project, of which has been mentioned, the policy dialogue we're here for today is the last element. So if you haven't been following the project, if you weren't involved in it, I'm just going to give you that brief overview. So let me just share my screen. No, coming. Yep. Okay, great. So the original project, as Ian mentioned earlier, this came from when we were thinking about how we could add value as an ASEAN dialogue partner. At that time, we were aspiring to be an ASEAN dialogue partner, and now we have that status. And so, yeah, given all of our involvement in COP26, and yeah, having a lot of expertise in the area, we decided that, yeah, we would focus on not just the two issues themselves, but the intersectionality between these two global issues. And the name of the project was actually Climate Action and Girls' Education in ASEAN, a Vicious or a Virtuous Circle. And these are the project objectives that we had. So primarily it was to raise awareness amongst young people. We were aiming at the school level, as I'll show you in a second, but also the wider public, teachers, heads of schools, as well as policymakers across ASEAN, of this interconnectivity. As I said earlier, the two phenomena themselves, and as Dr. Ethel mentioned, these are SDG areas in their own rights, are fairly well known. People understand climate change, people understand gender equality and the importance of girls' education, but the intersectionality, those causes and effects that go between them, was lesser known. And there were some seminal reports that came out fairly recently that we wanted to make known and, as I said, raise awareness. The second objective, and no less important by any means, was to ensure by doing so, we were also encouraging and empowering young people to feel they could engage and take action in this area. So not just receiving the information, but actually how could we get them involved? And the final one, and that is really why we're here today, as one of the first platforms, we wanted to be able to elevate the youth voices to policymakers, stakeholders, NGOs, schools, perhaps, to ensure that their very valuable voices and ideas were incorporated in trying to look for solutions. So how did we do this? We did it through three main activity areas. The project commenced in November last year with its inception. And the first output was a secondary school resource pack. So this was a resource pack that was aimed at, could be picked up by teachers at secondary schools across the whole spectrum. And it could be incorporated in non-English lessons. It could be incorporated in science, obviously, in project areas, humanities. Initially, the project has been launched in English, but we have developed, and as you can see in the photograph, we've developed local language versions of the secondary school resource pack in 8 of the ASEAN languages. We had to pick one for each of the countries where English is not a dominant language. So in a couple of weeks, at the beginning of July, we're very pleased to announce that we will have the resource pack and all of the teacher notes accompanying it in Khmer, Lao, Myanmar language, Filipino, Vietnamese, Thai, Bahasa Indonesia, and Bahasa Malaysia. So please look out for that, and we'll ensure you have the links to pick up the resource pack. So the aim of the resource pack, aside from the very important objective of trying to get across in a student-centered and understandable way these quite complex sometimes connections between climate change and girls' education, we also wanted to focus on making sure that students and teachers were aware of the urgency and the importance of addressing these very critical areas. We bring in the area of climate justice, whereby, the generators of climate change phenomenon and the receivers are often, not made equal, and therefore trying to understand better, who needs to act and who needs to react, perhaps. Also, a big strand of the pack is about the need for transformative action learning and youth empowerment. So it actually goes beyond the subject and through the whole of the pack is destined to get students engaged. It has 6 steps of an hour each, culminating in a role play. So it's very practical, and we try to make it as flexible as possible so you can dip in and dip out of it as you wish, with comprehensive teacher notes and a separate slide pack that could be done online or offline. So we're very excited about that. And we had Christina Quark, who is an expert in these areas, as well as gender, as well as Rachel Booth, who you'll see later as our gender consultant to the project, advising us on it. And to date, we've had over 300 downloads of the resource pack. But as I said, it's in English, so we hope that when the local languages come out, that we'll have many more downloads. The second element that has already been referred to was the student infographic poster competition. And that was, we put the age level a little bit higher because it was quite a challenging area. We wanted to get the students to use that infographic style to kind of depict these positive and negative interconnections between climate change and girls' education in a way that was clear, so that the content could come, the main areas of content could come across. It was clear, it was creative, and it was inspirational to young people. So that was quite a task. And we had over 80 entries, I'm pleased to say, across the region, the ASEAN region, from different countries. And we had an expert panel looking at them, and we have chosen 7 winners and 7 highly recommended that you will see in the next session. So that was fantastic. We got good engagement. And the last element, we're here today at the policy dialogue, where we hoped to showcase what's been done, but also to widen out the discussion to how can we really get more young people engaged in the SDGs. So finally, just a few lessons learned at the end of this whole dialogue. Rachel will summarize some of these for the whole project, and we're still compiling them. But I think we did see that by trying to do one activity or a series of activities across 10, actually 11 countries with Timor-Leste, had fantastic economies of scale. And also the interest was quite phenomenal, from schools to NGOs to ministries. We had really, really great buy-in. And thank you very much to SEAMEO and to UNESCO, who both helped us by trying to disseminate through their school networks, which was quite a thing. And that leads us on to the last 2 that I think trying to get that level of reach across that span of countries is quite challenging. And I think, we've got some ideas about how we could, potentially do that better. But that was, of course, challenging. And the time frame that we had, again, to get the resources out there, and the competition, again, was challenging. So I think with more time And with some more ideas about reach, we can do better things coming up. So thank you very much, and I'll hand back to Bank.
Thank you very much, Helga, for the overview of the program. And this, of course, leads to our next session to showcasing the winners of the posters for the Climate Change and Girls Education Infographics Poster Competition. So in the end, as Helga has mentioned, we have received over 80 applications, of which 7 posters have been selected as the winners, and another 7 have been selected as the highly recommended ones. So let me just quickly share with you, in no particular orders, of the following winning posters. So first, we have a winning poster from Mataday School from Thailand, as you can see here on the right. So Mataday has submitted 1 poster. Next up, Philippines Science High School, Cagayan Valley campus, again, contributed to winning 1 winning poster. Next up, SMPK4 Pinabur School from Indonesia, also contributing to 1 winning poster. Next up, Samut Prakan School from Samut Prakan in Thailand, also 1 poster here. And then we have 3 winning posters from the British International School, Hanoi in Vietnam. So this is the first winning poster from British International School, Hanoi. And this is the second poster. And last but not least, the 3rd winning poster from British International School, Hanoi in Vietnam. So I think the 7 winning posters, at the moment, you probably won't be able to see the details at this stage, but we have indeed pasted the link for you to view the posters in more detail of the 7 winning posters, as well as the highly recommended ones in our website. So please do check our chat box for the announcement into our website so that you can view them more in details. But for now, let us hear more from the students about their experience, talking about them taking part in the competition, which they have shared their voices through a recording. Let's watch them.
Okay, so what made you decide to enter this competition?
To be honest, I decided to enter this competition because it is a way in which young people, students like us, have an opportunity to advocate other people about our views of these issues, and to also speak up perhaps about our experiences regarding the problems with climate change and education, especially for girls. And I believe that it is just as important and valuable these views are to the other people, and it definitely helps us as collectives to have a wider view and a better understanding of these issues.
Okay, thank you.
Personally, I found the topic really interesting because although we all know climate change and gender equality are both really important global problems, I don't think I ever really thought about the connections between those two. So I thought it would be really fun to find out about it.
Our inspiration to participate in this competition is our experience on school camp to the school in the rural area. We went there and we see many problems that the students and the teacher faced. There are 2 main problems. The first one is the route to the school is not very developed and it's damaged. And also due to the climate change, the weather is unstable, and the teacher told us that if it's a rainy day and the route will be damaged and even more damaged, so the student cannot go to school. They have to stay at home instead.
I watch YouTube videos and generally videos about climate change, and it always saddens me about how harmful it can be to the environment. And because of that, it kind of opened my eyes and encouraged me, motivated me to try and take action in any way possible. And that's why when I first heard about this competition, I thought it was a great way for me to at least try to take action and try increase awareness and help with this issue, climate change.
What did you learn from taking part in this competition?
For me, as well as learning about the connections between the two issues, I also got a chance to get a deeper understanding of the consequences of them, especially on females. For example, there was a fact that really shocked me, which was a fact that was like 2/3 of the illiterate adults in the world were women. And yeah, that was something that really shocked me.
Well, I'm a guy, so exploring the impacts of climate change on minority girls opened my eyes a bit more to the situation they live in. As part of an ethnic majority group, we're pretty much systematically biased. The issues we've discovered are not really visible throughout our daily lives, and it came to me that we're very oblivious to the situation until we dive into the topic through our research.
Well, as for me, I think that this competition has really taught me that there is a complicated web of intertwined reasons that would lead to lack of education. And ever since I saw that there can be many hidden or unpredictable or bewildering reasons that link strongly to issues that are far beyond education, I learned that any solution to any problem related to education must then address all relevant problems such as job security, geological factors, systematic discrimination, and, climate change in particular.
But collectively, we've learned to be more compassionate and learned to be more responsible for helping disadvantaged or unfortunate people who are suffering from the consequences of our actions.
Well, we know that as a privileged group, we have a large carbon footprint and that we contribute much more to climate change. So taking part in this competition would allow us to be more aware of our action and maybe address the problem on a scale that is appropriate for us as students.
Participating in this competition really realized how important it is for everyone to be able to access to good education and how much support they need from us to take action or at least be aware of the problems. And also we learn to find the sustainable solution to develop our rural area and really hope that this solution can actually be used in the future.
Joining the competition has opened my eyes to the issues in my country that I haven't reflected on before. It gave me the opportunity to widen my perspectives and really think about the future of women not only here in the Philippines but also around the world. From there, I realized that we all have a part to play to try to solve these issues through joint cooperation between the different sectors of our society and different government agencies.
At first, I thought climate change only impacted the environment around us as well as the animal lives, not our human lives. But then when I joined this competition, it opened my eyes and helped me see that this climate change does not only impact the environment around us, but it also impacts our human lives. And especially for this competition, it's more focused into the educational part. And for the second thing I've learned is that, at first, I thought my country had the most problem and the most impacted one from climate change. But then after joining this I see that not only my country is facing it, but other countries as well from the other participants of this competition are also facing the same issue that my country is also facing.
Final question. What support do you think would help other young people like you to get actively involved with the key Sustainable Development Goal areas?
The youth today is very much empowered to be involved in discussing global issues. All we need is the assistance to have and access to a platform. I believe that providing resources and proper education to the youth will greatly help so that we become more knowledgeable on these issues and positively innovate new solutions along the way.
Well, Well, our group suggests that firstly, we need to raise awareness and communicate effectively using channels that can attract young people's attention so that the information can actually reach them. Young people should also be aware of the urgent need to take actions immediately, because if not, climate change will have severe impacts on our very own near future. Secondly, we should organize competitions and platforms in which young people can get into groups and take actions together, because it is much more motivating to work in teams rather than on your own. Support and guidance from experts such as teachers or UN workers can be also very useful, because they can show the young people that it is not that difficult to create and execute the initiatives. It is also very important to let them have their first achievements. It can just be a small, quick win, but there needs to be rewards, because it will give the young people the great motivation to continue working and trying even harder. And last but not least, it is essential to let them know that their actions and opinions are not going to waste. They are being taken into consideration and respected by those with powers, and that it is totally possible for small, young individuals like them to create big and positive changes to the world.
Like my students stated in their poster, climate change is not gender neutral. While it is true that everyone is affected, women in general suffer more than men as a result of harsh conditions brought upon by climate change. Thus, it is only through more gender-inclusive policies and strategies can we effectively and efficiently address the problem of climate change.
Maybe I can take the conclusion. We have to face this problem, climate change, together with the other people, with the other country. So we can make agreement, something to do something, same things with this climate change, to face climate change. Okay, thank you for your sharing and have a nice day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you very much to all the winning schools and students taking part in the poster competition. And I think that's quite a lot of interesting insights from the students there, isn't it? So if you haven't looked at the poster yet, do check out our link to the website so that you can view all of them, the 7 winning posters and the 7 highly recommended posters, so that you can see what the students have been up to. Okay, next up for the program today, we do have a plenary session, which we will have Professor Nicola Walsh, who is the head of the Department of Curriculum, Pedagogy and Assessment and Executive Director for the Centre of Climate Change and Sustainability Education at University College London in the UK. And her research is predominantly in the field of teacher education in climate change, environmental and sustainability education. So particularly for this session, we will be hearing more on how to best raise awareness and increase engagement of young people on climate change, gender equality, and inclusive quality education. If you're ready, Nicola, I'll pass over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And what an impressive bunch of young people that we've just heard from. So really fantastic to follow on from them. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this very prestigious event. It's an absolute honour and so fantastic to see the coming together of this community to discuss and drive forward action around climate change and girls' education, particularly in ASEAN. So I'm going to just give a very brief context as to why it's important to give children and young people a voice in climate change and sustainability education. And then I'm going to give just a couple of brief examples about how it has been done successfully, just to perhaps stimulate a little bit of thinking as we move forward into the rest of the programme. So just wanted to give a bit of a sense, first of all, the climate change and sustainability education is not something that's new. We've been talking about it really since the 1970s, but with, of course, increasing urgency. And I really like Stefania Giannini's sort of quote here, which is a more recent one from UNESCO, who have been talking much more urgently recently about the way that we have to address climate change and sustainability through education. And as Stefania says, we must change the way we think and act as individuals and societies. So in turn, education must change to create a peaceful and sustainable world. And I would very much suggest that actually, in order to do that, we need to engage the children and young people that we are working with and for. The UN Convention of the Rights of the Child from 1989 talks about protecting young people's rights to express views on matters affecting them, but these often tend to go unheard, and previously young people have had very few opportunities to be involved in environmental decision making, which is affecting them. And perhaps there's a lack of this, the lack of action and increasing criticality around climate change. Young people, and indeed young women in particular, are increasingly at the forefront of calls for action on climate change. So people like Greta Thunberg, who of course I'm sure you're familiar with, but also Nazreen Al-Sayem in Sudan, Ili Nadia Zulfikar in Malaysia, Marinelle Mabaldo in the Philippines, just to name a few. So women in particular, but young people are starting to voice and give their voices. So it's clear that there's a movement from young people to be heard, but what about climate change and girls' education in particular? And just 2 weeks ago, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai joined environmental campaigners Greta Thunberg and Vanessa Nakate at one of the Friday climate protests, which I'm sure you're aware of, that have been held there every week since 2018 now. And Yousafzai, Nakate and Thunberg all stressed how women, especially those in the global south, were disproportionately affected by the climate crisis and can be part of the solution if they're empowered by education. And we've started to hear about that in the opening remarks, which was very helpful. But just to very quickly summarise or sort of give that context again, firstly, the inequality and discrimination experienced by marginalised girls and young women are amplified by climate change. So, for example, the UN estimates 80% of people displaced by climate change are female, for example. Secondly, girls' education is hugely important as a mechanism for addressing climate change itself. It not only addresses climate change directly through ensuring every girl can exercise their reproductive rights, but it enables girls to contribute to and thrive in a green economy, empowering them for environmental leadership, for example. And going back to Yousafzai, Nakate and Thunberg, they're proactively making their voices heard. But how do we as researchers and policymakers ensure we provide opportunities to make young people's voices, particularly those who might ordinarily be marginalised, a centre part of our work? And I think that's really key. So what I'm going to do is give you 2 examples of sort of research context, but of course that can be, and talk about how they have actually given voices to young people in different ways. And I can put the links so you can find out more information in the chat afterwards if that would be helpful. The first example I want to give is the Manifesto for Education for Environmental Sustainability, undertaken or led by Linda Dunlop and Lizzie Rushton, and just last year. And that aimed to, through participatory approaches, elicit a shared vision of what the future of education for environmental and sustainability could look like. And crucial to this was the development of a manifesto. So a manifesto being a set of policies that a party stands for and would wish to implement if elected to govern. So giving the voices to the young people to develop a manifesto was giving them a voice to say, well, what would they say? What would they wish to implement if elected to govern? And they foregrounded voices of hard to reach communities. So that included girls, but also young people of colour and young people of disabilities. And they undertook online participatory workshops between teachers and young people in 2 ways. First of all, a futures workshop, so bringing people together, young people in particular, to generate ideas in response to social problems. So very much sort of solutions focused, if you like. And then visualization workshops, so to create imagery that could be used to illustrate the manifesto. And you can see there the manifesto on the left, which has got some examples, and I'll show you that. And what they did is they come up with a series of defining the problems, but also a series of solutions. And you can see there, I'm not going to go through them all, but just to illustrate. So classroom solutions are some examples there, but also community solutions, policy solutions. So again, very important to think not just about what the issue is and framing that issue, but how to be positive, help your children and young people to be part of that solution through being positive and creating positive mechanisms and routes to action. That was with children and young people slightly older, sort of teenage age groups. What I wanted to talk about is also to stress that it doesn't have to be just older young people. We can be engaging younger children with some of these this dialogue. And the second project I wanted to draw on is my own project, which is called Eco Capabilities. And eco capabilities really was developed through 3 main concerns. First of all, a concern for nature connectivity and the fact that increasingly children are disconnected from their environments, and evidence suggests that that is therefore making them less conscious of the environment, but certainly less willing or interested in preserving it. a concern for the arts and inequalities in access to the arts, certainly within sort of Western context and Western policy context in particular, and also a concern for children's well-being. And of course, that's very much linked with the SDGs, as well as being a broader concern for society in terms of a concern for broader well-being and the impact of COVID, for example, on children and young people's mental health. And all of that was underpinned by sustainability. So what we did is we worked with children and young people through arts, children aged, and I think I've got that year, aged sort of 7 to 10 in 2 primary schools, looking at working with them with artists in nature. So taking them out into nature for a day a week over a series of 8 weeks to engage them with that nature and start to explore with them the impact on that. And how did we listen to children? Well, we undertook a lot of workshopping with children, so they're very young, so you have to adapt your methodology. You can't just have workshops in the same way. We got them, for example, to draw what their happy places might be. And this is an example of one here. So you start to think about, well, how are they articulating what makes them happy and well? So you're not just asking them the questions directly, you're giving them other ways of sharing their voices. We also undertook what we call walk and talk focus groups or interviews. So we asked, rather than sitting and just directly asking children, we get them to talk about it as they're showing us around their school grounds, as they're showing us around their local communities. And we were working with disadvantaged children who might be disenfranchised from their local areas and therefore not able to have the power. And in order to show the impact of that, I wanted to just show this very brief video. It's just a very short clip that, as you see, children speak so much better than I do. Don't worry if you can't hear it, there are subtitles.
We get to go outside to do art. We normally make it about what we are inspired by, like all of us were inspired by bugs and birds. It makes you feel closer to nature and you can also see new art of it. It definitely made me think how lucky we are to have such a beautiful world. We need nature because we can't survive without nature.
There is so much inspiration in working outdoors. The children said it was wild, it wasn't like going into nature, it's like you are nature.
Do more stuff outside. When you're outside, there's lots of space and it's calm and it's really peaceful. Yes. We didn't even need songs because the birds were singing for us.
So you can see there, just very briefly, there's much longer videos, and again, I'll put the link in the chat if you're interested, but actually you listening to young children is also possible if you set up and set up those forums in the right way. And we found that actually developing this practice gave them a whole sense of what we called eco capabilities, and there's further information on there. So I just want to finish off before open for questions, talking a little bit about the UCL Centre for Climate Change and Sustainability Education, which very much is foregrounding youth voice through youth panels, for example. And the centre aims to provide professional development free for teachers of all disciplines, of all phases, so primary and secondary, and all levels of experience, so school leaders down to early career teachers. Through partnerships, so working with partners internationally, so that could be academic, school-based, but very much children and young people are part of those partnerships, and underpinned by research. And the research is really central in terms of research which engages with and through children and young people. We're already foregrounding the voices of children and young people. This graph here shows parents saying what they think is important to their children and young people. The top one there, you can see is the need to protect our environment and climate. So parents are telling us that this is the central thing of importance to their children. It's the thing that they're most talking to their parents about. Children and young people, and these are focus groups that we've undertaken, are saying it's quite obvious to see young people often speak up about it more than older people. They're aware that they are talking about it, they're more concerned about it, so we must make sure that we're giving them the voices to actually be heard and when they're the ones raising it. But the final thing I wanted to say is this quote here as well, which I think is really important, and we might take through into some of the panel discussion in a few minutes. They say, I think a lot of young people are aware, but a lot of the time it just feels out of your control. We're not the policymakers. We can't stop the big corporations that contribute more to the crisis than we do in our whole lives. It just feels disproportionate. So it's really important that we're empowering children and young people, but we're not giving all the responsibility to them. We're hearing their voices, we're helping them to contribute to the discussions, but we're not saying, here, this is your problem, solve it. We're working with them. And I think that's also really important to prevent things like eco-anxiety, which was alluded to at the beginning of this session as well. So to finish off, I always like to give the voices to the children and young people. And this is a quote from some of the younger children again. It can be a bit depressing. We need more positive stuff. We need to have hope. And I think listening to children and young people about climate change and sustainability in particular is a really positive way of moving forward for them, but also for wider society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Okay, so Nicola will then be reconvening with us again in the session after the next one. Once again, if you do have any questions, then a reminder that you can, of course, send them in to the Q&A chat box in the tab beneath you. So please feel free to send in us any questions to any or any comments you would like to share with us. Now, whizzing through to the next sessions, please, on the reflections and the youth initiative. We do have 3 speakers here today to hear more about how the youth have been engaged towards the global challenges and what were the highlights and the challenges that they have faced. So first up, I would like to invite the first speaker, Senior Research Executive from the Ipsos Malaysia, towards a greener future, climate change and climate action from the perspective of Southeast Asian Youth Report. I'd like to invite Evelyn Fui Yi Tan. Over to you, Evelyn.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm the speaker for this session, Evelyn from Ipsos Malaysia. I'm here today to present the regional findings on the study about climate change and climate action from the perspective of Southeast Asian youth. A bit of background about this study. We conducted a survey of young people from Southeast Asia between 18 and 35 years old. We spoke to 2,320 young people from 10 countries, which are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. The data were weighted to give each country equal weight, and today's presentation mainly outlines the regional findings, and there will be some call-outs in terms of the differences between countries. Moving to the next slide, a bit of background about who we spoke to. We have captured the gender, age, education level, religion, employment status, marital status, strata, household income by each country, and also disability and digital inclusion. This research was designed to ensure the view of the more marginalized segments of the population was reflected. When marginalized segments are mentioned in the presentation, it refers to youth among the lowest earning households of each respective country, who have not completed education beyond secondary school, have less access to digital tools, or who have past or current experience with impairment. Moving to the main research areas, when we talk about the current top issues the world is facing, climate change and its impact have gathered much attention across the world, and Southeast Asia is no exception. Although young people are frequently exposed to multiple concerns such as socio-economic challenges and more recently the threat of COVID-19, climate change ranks as the 4th biggest issue regionally. Variations between different countries can be observed. In Brunei and Laos, the concern about climate change is most widespread, while in Cambodia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Myanmar, less than half of young people see climate change as a major issue. Only in Brunei and Singapore, climate change is seen as the single biggest issue the world is facing. Next, when we talk about lifestyle changes compared to the parent generation, young people in the region expect widespread impact on their lives because of climate change, and the main impacts expected are higher cost of living and more environmental health problems. Furthermore, a majority believe that climate change will bring a negative impact on their future, so they must significantly change their lifestyles to fight against climate change. However, young people are more optimistic about measures taken at a societal level. Many of them feel powerless about doing anything personally, and they feel changing their day-to-day activities will not make much of a difference. Although we mentioned that young people think their individual action is limited in the previous slide, young people do think that their voices can be heard in terms of influencing climate action policies and initiatives. Interestingly, the confidence in one's ability to have a say in the climate change discussion is higher in some of the less affluent countries. And furthermore, the more marginalized parts of the population are more likely to think they have a voice to influence policies and initiatives. The subsequent slide shows that the belief that one can participate does not necessarily translate into actual participation. However, the discrepancy does not signal a low degree of participation. The fact that half have participated in activities is actually significant. It rather shows that even if young people feel empowered to participate, it does not necessarily mean they will do so. The degree of participation differs between countries, substantially fewer in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Among those who have not joined any climate-related activities, there are three main barriers: don't know how to join, don't know anyone who organizes such activities, and don't have time. Don't know how to join is more frequently mentioned in Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, while it is less of an issue in Singapore. Next, moving on to the skills needed to participate in the climate change discussion, teamwork or collaborative skills are deemed the most important skills, followed by self-discipline or self-motivation and analytical skills. Opinions about the skills required are similar across almost all countries, where teamwork and self-discipline are cited as the top skills needed. The only exceptions are young people in Vietnam and Thailand, where analytical skills are seen as more important. And unlike other countries, young people in Brunei consider ethical and intercultural understanding among the top skills needed, and young people in Vietnam and Laos emphasize language skills more than others. And largely, young people feel that they possess the skills needed to participate. In terms of source of information about climate change, social media is inevitably the primary source. TV is the second most common source, followed by online news. Reliance on online sources is particularly high in Brunei, while young people in Philippines and Vietnam rely heavily on TV. In terms of reliability, scientists are deemed the most credible source, except for Cambodia. Moving to the next point, which is about the attentiveness of the institution to climate change, young people have stronger faith in the UN and NGO because they are seen as more attentive in listening to climate change concerns and more capable of addressing issues. Young people consider their own country's leaders more attentive than leaders in other countries, and Singaporean youth have the strongest belief in the attentiveness of their own national leaders. Local community leaders and businesses are seen as less attentive and less capable. In short, just to sum up the main points I talked about earlier, firstly, young people in Southeast Asia consider climate change as one of the biggest issues. Secondly, young people do not see themselves as helpless bystanders. A large majority think that they can influence climate action initiatives, and almost half have participated in climate-related activities. Thirdly, for any person or organization who wants to reach out to young people, utilizing online channels such as social media is essential. It is also important that the information is supported by trustworthy sources and rooted in science. Fourthly, in a world where collaborations operate on a global scale and in the online space as much as the physical world, young people are aware that a wide range of skills is important to participate in climate-related discussions. And lastly, initiatives under the UN or NGOs will have a high degree of credibility among young people. We have come to the end of the presentation. Thank you for having me and Ipsos Malaysia. Have a nice day, everyone. And I will pass the floor to Mr. Shavit.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Your data has been very, very rich, and I'm surprised you managed to present everything in over just 7 minutes. And we do have a comment from the floor as well, whether we can share this information to the participants later. I think that's essentially the same thing I would be looking forward to. So yes, responding to that question, we will be sharing further information to you later. So thank you very much, Evelyn, for your presentation earlier. We will now go to the next presenter. So may I please invite Kun Piyachon or Anthony from Chiang Rai in Thailand to present about carbon dioxide to fuel carbon capture technology. So Mr. Anthony, good Anthony, if you are ready, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you. My name is Piashwan Puipat. You can call me Anthony. I'm from the northern region of Thailand in the province of Chiang Rai. I'm here today to talk a bit about myself and my work. So give me a minute to pull up the PowerPoint here. So I guess I'll be talking about my work today, mainly two of them. One, there'll be a project that I'm currently working on right now, but first off, I want to get off with CO2 to fuel, which is a carbon capture and conversion technology. This is the project most people know me for. And to quickly explain it is that this technology converts carbon dioxide to oxygen and hydrogen. Think of it in a manner similar in real life to trees in photosynthesis, where carbon dioxide is taken in with other nutrients and sunlight to create oxygen and glucose. Currently, if we're talking about this machine, we have a working prototype, and my role in this project is as a presenter and content creator. Though I am not directly involved with the invention process, I work very closely with the team behind CO2 to fuel to present information to the net. And I've worked in other environmental concern and community related projects, one of which I'm going to be talking about in this next slide here, which is about youth and community development involving sub-districts in the Chiang Rai province. The sub-district I'll be focused on today is the Tamon Krung sub-district. So the Tamon Krung sub-district is a sub-district in the district of Chiang Khong in the province of Chiang Rai, of course. Tamon Krung has a culture and tradition of people who make products using the rattan plant. If you don't know, the rattan plant is a kind of spiky looking plant, very tall, and they have to be trimmed down and cut to be wound and stitched into these kinds of products as you see here with these kind of patterns. My role again here is as a presenter and content creator. I work with the elderly group in the community and the youth community to help promote their products and the culture. My goal with this project is that I want to help the community pass on their art form and their culture, as this the rattan products is still this culture is being done by the elderly in the community, and they wanted to pass on their skills and their knowledge to more people, as well as of course find income in making these products, as the creation process of these products are of course very difficult. Not even just in the creation process itself, but also in the preparation, because the rattan plant, they have a very limited amount to be used at a time each year. And the plant itself takes about 3 to 5 years to grow. So where we're at now is we're trying to find places to expand planting space, so there can be more rattan to be used each at a time. I'm also looking into investing in a trimming machine to help speed up production, because that's also one of the more difficult processes in the product making. Then, I guess it's a bit weird to transition from CO2 to fuel to a more community-based project like this one, but my reasoning for doing kind of more in line with this one is that a lot of problems with environmental concern in my province, at least, has to do with a lot has to do with the people doing there themselves. And I think starting with people who live there in the province that they have, and most of the time, the people here are willing to change themselves for the better, but they just lack the knowledge or again the platform to be able to help someone support them or be able to speak because sometimes they don't have the option to be able to help themselves in a sense, not completely, but yes. So that's what my ethos with this project is. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So it's a bit rambly, but now I'll show you a video that's kind of an overview of the same thing I just said, but I'll help you get a better idea of what I'm trying to say. Let me show you here. So if you all can see it, okay.
Hello, my name is Piasham Puipat, presenter of the CO2 to fuel carbon capture technology. Until recently, I've been involved in supporting the activities of the sub-district Damon Krung, located in Chiang Krong in the province of Chiang Rai. To more people. Together with the youth of the community, they help to spread the tradition of rattan products and the beautiful Lana cultural history. Our natural rattan takes 3 to 5 years to grow by the community's elderly group. We believe that starting from a small point will lead to a bigger change for us. With encouragement and support from the school teachers, we learn how we can carry on our community's cultural heritage and let people all over the country and the world to get to know about us and our community. Together we work every step with the elderly in our community. And in addition, we also recognize the importance of global climate change and environmental protection. We are always putting effort to make and change every product to be modern and 100% natural. From the past, the present, to the future, where everyone of all ages, all supporting parties come together to help each other, to build a city that's beautiful and healthy. I would like to thank the municipality of the Tam Mon Krung sub-district for helping to support the sustainable development of youth and communities. And lastly, I want to invite all government and private agencies to come together to help support the community of Tam Mon Krung. Thank you.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you. I'll pass on to the next panelist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kapun and today. So our next speaker for this session, so I'll be pleased to invite you, Kun Suk Savai, the founder of Zero Waste Lao. And Kun Suk Savai has indeed been engaged with over 10,000 of young people in Laos to the Zero Waste initiatives and also to promote the climate change, youth development movement and SDGs to the newer generations. I can see that you are ready, so I'll pass over to you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. So today I'm very excited to be a part of this event. When I hear the invitations about climate change and current education, I'm very excited that I will take this opportunity to share and learn from you. So I have the presentations about zero waste law. I'm not sure if everyone can see the slide now.
Yes.
Okay. Zero waste law we start from 2019, which is focused on awareness. At first, we start awareness on social media. We want to spread information that related to waste, environmental protections, and later we after a few years until now, we work more on piloting project on waste management, climate change, youth development, and gender as well, and also SDG. So for us, our team, I would like to say that 80% are female. So we are quite very related to current education and climate. And currently we have almost 150 members, and during 2 years we have more than 2,000 young people that participate in our event and activity. So what we want to do, our vision is as currently we are a volunteering or advocacy group, but we are in the process of turning ourselves to be non-profit organization or NPA, and we want to everyone to recognize us as a change maker to make it a cleaner environment in Laos, and also to be sustainability leader. And our target is working with young people, establish role model school in terms of waste separations, composting, and also stop burning, also raising awareness related to environmental issue. And our approach is bottom-up approach. So we see that it's worked very well here in Laos, because after a few years, we realized that not just only working in the community, but also the policy maker, even the private sector, they are approaching to us and want to work together with us. This is quite work very well in Laos, especially with our team. Yeah, and this is our achievements during last 2 years. So all the achievement that or even those events that we organize is happen during our weekend, or I would say our spare time of the young people. So when we want to work with young people, engage with the young people, that means we have to work during the weekend or not weekday, because we know well that they have class. And yeah, so that's very huge achievement. And when we look back, like many activity that we organize, some of the activity that we work with young people is Me, My Body, My Planet, My Future. And also we not just only work in Vientiane capital, but we try to work with the young people in southern part. For example, we organize in Pak Se, Safe Green Clean Southern Laos with many partners. And more than that, we also work in other provinces in Khammouon, partner with big hydropower companies called Nam Turn 2. And we organize zero waste campings, work on SDG. Yeah. And the big event that very related to SDG is called Youth for SDG Laos conference that we organize. So almost 300 young people participate in our event, and also have more than 20 organizations that work together. So Zero Waste Laos is the organizer for this event. Actually, I joined this the event in Thailand, and I am very inspired, and I organize it in Laos. So whenever I join any event, I always have some like idea and very inspired to make it happen in Laos. And we also have a sustainability leader program that last year we organized to build a young leader to have sustainability mindset, system thinking, and also soft skill, as well as understand about SDG. So since last month, we have some many activity that I would like to present in the video. currently we are in the program is called Youth Climate Action. So last year we organized the event Youth Climate, but that's for raising awareness. But this year is more the action that we are working, and also we target to plant 100,000 trees in the in Laos. So currently we make it more than 5,000, and by this year we aim to achieve around 30. So probably next year we can achieve our goal. So this is just happened in a month, the event that you will see in the video. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So that's all for the presentation from me. And so as we are in the process of climate action, in case that any organization want to join or be our partner, we are welcome to make the change together or to plant the tree 100,000 trees together. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kakun Suksavar, for your presentation here. And of course, thanks to the three speakers. So up next, we will be having a panel session, which I'm very delighted once again to invite Nicola, Professor Nicola Walsh as the moderator for this session. So I can see you're already ready, Nicola. And of course, the two speakers from the previous session, Kun Anthony from Thailand and Kun Suksavar from Zero Waste Laos as the two panelists, as well as the following three more speakers, please. So I'm pleased to invite Ku Min Nguyen or Tina, a 17-year-old program coordinator and network secretary at the Youth Climate Action Network, or YNET, who Tina has manages a coalition of 15 youth organizations across the country. We also have Dr. Lê Chong Hung, Director of Ministry of Education and Training for the Support for Autonomous Higher Education Project in Vietnam. And he's the focal point for the project on education for sustainable development goals, and in particularly in the area of education for climate change and environmental sustainability. And the final panelist, we are pleased to have Associate Professor Dr. Malika, Specialist for SEAMEO STEM Ed, Dean of School of Science from Wailak University, and she's also the chair of Global Learning and Observation to Benefit the Environment, or GLOBE Science Working Group that provides students and the public with opportunities to contribute to the understanding of the Earth and environmental systems. So I'll pass over to Nicola, please.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, we're going to start off by some questions that we've prepared, but if you have any more questions based on what people have said already or that spring to mind as we're sort of having our panel discussion, then please do put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll try and make sure that they're addressed or answered. If they're for particular people, also indicate that when you're writing the question in the Q&A as well, please. Otherwise, I shall just answer direct them broadly. So thank you very much, panelists. And we're going to start off by exploring perhaps what the benefits and challenges might be. So why should we engage children and young people in initiatives or conversations around climate change and sustainability, or work around the SDGs? So my first question is, to what extent should young people have a voice in these sorts of initiatives and conversations? And what might the potential benefits of doing so, or actually consequences of not doing so, be? And if it's okay, Tina, we've not heard from you yet today, so I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay. So why should children and young people have voices in these initiatives, and what are the potential benefits?
So hi, my name is Minh Khuê once again, and I am from Vietnam, and I am a member of YNET, Youth Climate Action Network Vietnam. And right now is in Vietnam it is raining heavily. So if you guys couldn't hear anything well, please do let me know, and I will repeat it again. So for the question is how important to engage young people in the SDG conversations. So as we know, young people have been playing a big role in the development of societies, as we are the agents of change, campaigning to advance the sustainable development goals, which are responsible for solving problems that still exist in our community, also the local area. So for me, the youth participation is totally and is completely important. And because we always propose many innovative and also the appropriate solutions to address youth issues. Also, we are trying to reflecting our voice of the youth in the policy making for each sector in each field. And actually, there are many potential benefits of young people when we engage them into the SDG activities. But as I can see that there are two main potential benefits. First is the young people, they can get engaged in the local politics. So like whenever we heard about the policy or the politics, many people would think that young people are too young to be take part in or to raise their voice or to express their ideas in the local politics. But actually, youth plays an essential role for many reasons. First, because they are the critical thinkers. So due to their curiosity and their strength, they have the ability to calculation the system, and they are also the change maker. And also, as we can see that youth can do anything because we are living in the modern world and in a high technology world. But for somehow, I couldn't see that not much young people, they are putting effort to take part in the policy making. So there is a benefit of when we engage youth to in the local politics, because when young people participate in local politics, they raise awareness of the problems that beyond the previous generation stops, and so that we can also learn from the mistake of our predecessor and develop the leadership. And finally, the last potential benefits is we can get involved in more NGOs and NPO, non-profit organizations, and the engagement of youth in community development projects enlighten their understanding of underlying issues in their polity. And this will help them to develop empathy and that are required to pursue goals that are bigger than themselves. So yeah, that is my perspective.
Thank you. No, really interesting points there, Tina. Thank you very much. Anthony, as our other kind of youth panelist, do you have anything you'd like to add to that in terms of either the benefits and the importance of engaging with youth voices or the potential consequences of not doing so?
Well, I don't really have anything to add. I think she said every point I kind of wrote down before this, so I really don't have anything to add.
No, that's absolutely fine. In fact, in which case I'll come to you, Dr. Hung, if that's all right, because it would be really interesting to get your perspective of somebody who perhaps is able to empower young people through giving them that voice. Are you able to contribute, Dr. Hung? Can you hear me? If you turn on your microphone.
You are talking to me, right?
Yes, yes.
I didn't hear my name my name is Hung, right? Minh Khuê can pronounce my name is Hung.
Yes.
I'm happy to listen to all young people speaking on their opportunity, on their benefit when they participate in the community action to respond to climate change. It's really wonderful. This is their example, their activity that they are doing with local communities. And in Vietnam, we have a lot of activities like Minh Khuê just told you. In Vietnam, actually, we started this kind of activity a long time ago in terms of to protect our environment, in terms of to respond to climate change, in terms of like outside school activities. In Vietnam, we have like a compulsory activity is outside school activity for the school kids. So it's really wonderful to hear from young people talking on that one. And okay, go ahead, Nicola. Go ahead.
No, I think there's a little bit of a delay. No, I think you were going to add more, so do go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
You want me to talk more on this one?
Yeah, if you have more to add, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Sure, because today I'm happy to be in this event. Very nice. You know, I have been working in climate change education for 10 years. And I have been like a focal point person for Ministry of Education and Training on climate change education. So of course, I get a lot of things to talk on this one, but I just give an example. How can we put climate change education into school? We talk a lot of things. We talk a lot of solutions. We talk a lot of many things, but I would like to give one example that Ministry of Education and Training with UNICEF in Vietnam did last year. How to bring education on climate change into school, because we are talking on policy making level. You know, one policy, it can influence on many people, on million people. In Vietnam, we have 23 million people in school. I mean, like a Minh Khuê and like those kids. I mean, young people, 23 million young people, 1/4 of Vietnamese population, 1/4. So activity at school, very important. Young people at school play a very important role. And what we did last year with UNICEF, why I am talking about UNICEF example, because British Council in Bangkok, British Council in Vietnam can contact UNICEF in Vietnam to talk on. We did one example, how to make education, annual education plan for school. In Vietnam, every year, each school has to develop some kind of plan we call annual education school plan. And this plan has to be approved by the head of school. This plan, we say education plan, and this has to be approved by principal of the school. And how can we put climate change education into this plan? Because if we can have a detail of education on climate change in this plan, then with us, climate change responding can be carried out in the school. So we work with UNICEF and to build the framework of this school plan, and this plan includes climate change education. And this activity focus on teacher, on student, on parents, and on community. You know, first on teacher, what kind of activity teacher should do, what kind of activity the kids, I call student, school student, okay, should do, what kind of parents should do, what kind of community should do for climate change education. And we develop like a framework, and we send to many schools, like a supplementary material for the school. And go ahead. We send to many schools in Vietnam. Of course, we go through many activity like a training, TOT, like a training to teacher, like a training to the school, like a training to the kids, to the school children, many training. And we say legalize this document, and we send to the school, and they use that. They bring the climate change education into their plan. And I think it's more than enough. The kids here have their example of carry out activity with local community. But at ministry level, we just try to develop some kind of policy, some kind of instruction for the school to bring climate change education into school.
Thank you. Really interesting there to see how you're trying to embed it within the school system and the formal system, which is really great. And welcome, Dr. Malika. It's really lovely to have you join us as well for the panel. And of course, your context is a university, you're the Dean of the School of Science and Chair of Globe Science Working Group. From your perspective, how else do you think, so this is for you, Dr. Malika. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Malika.
Thank you so much, Professor Nicola. It's a very interesting question indeed. And I think for formal education, there are many ways that, and also many levels that we can integrate these into curriculum. For example, as university professor, university can incorporate these in general education. Okay, so that means first year student from the whole university can think about climate change, and also we can do active learning in class. Okay, so the undergrad student can go and then like, okay, let's go outside and do something about climate change. Okay, so that means students that graduate from undergrad program in Thailand, imagine how many, okay, probably 100,000 of undergrad students, right? They would have, they will do, at least they have basic knowledge on climate change. And if all university doing active learning, they can do small projects, okay? They can do small campaigns within, you know, within a class. And if they involve communities, okay, in the class, so they can take students outside and then helping out with some climate activity involving community. So as far as I can see, okay, it will make a huge impact, you know, globally. And if you imagine, if we nail down to high school kids, okay, we can talk to Ministry of Education and then have them put these in the curriculum, let's say in grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. at least in biology class, okay? So they can think about carbon neutral, zero waste, okay? And, plastic thing, okay? There are many, many ways, and we can talk to small enterprise, in the community, and asking for CSR projects, okay? I think they would love to fund this kind of projects, because you can see that the community, they will be happy with, something that they can contribute with the climate change action. Thank you so much for question.
Thank you. It's really interesting, and you're starting to talk about engaging with, so formal education, but engaging with local communities. And Suk Savoy, if I may come to you, because you in your presentation have already talked about the work that you're doing around communities, and I just wondered, are there anything else that you could reflect on that outside the more formal channels we might give young people a voice, so whether that be through youth groups or social media or community structures? So is there anything else that you think of outside of the formal education structures which might give us a route to giving voice to young people?
Yes, so I think it's very important that we have activity outside of the school, because it's not just only give experience to them, but they also learn how to implement that. They have idea that they implement there, and also learn many skills. This is very important to students, because some skill that we cannot student cannot learn in the school. And for example, in Laos, the climate change education is not integrated into the formal education. So here we have been working and advocate a lot to have the young people, students, to understand about climate change. When we ask students, okay, if you have learned this in school or not, many of them, they said, no, we never knows about this. We only know from social media or from joining our activity, and then they know more. And then also when we want to engage with the young people or outside activity, it doesn't mean that we have to work alone, or it's very important that we also need to work with partner. For example, we also work with Ministry of Education. Even we have not formal activity, but it's very important that we integrate or have some hours during a week to have some activity that related to climate change or environmental protection. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask a similar question, if that's okay, to Anthony and Tina, in terms of what are the mechanisms for informal ways of us engaging with the youth, so that we're ensuring that we give youth voices. So Suk Savoy talked about partnerships there as well between different people were really helpful, but any other ways or informal challenges that we might engage with youth into giving them their voice, but also what might the challenges be for doing that? Anthony, shall I come to you first?
Sure. I guess like informal way is I guess this is from my own experiences mainly. I guess we're in the social media age, and I think just using that, like for say, just like encouraging content, just like because like I know some of my friends and some of my relatives or some people that I know that there are children who are interested in environmental concerns, and I think like maybe encouraging them to maybe like go to explore how to create content about these subjects on social media would be good, because that's how it got started mainly. Yeah, that's what I had to say.
No, that's really helpful. And just even the example of the video that we showed that you'd developed around the project that you were talking about in your presentation, Anthony, was really helpful way of giving you that voice that you could then share on a platform that you know, like YouTube. So thank you. Tina, did you have anything you wanted to add?
As Anthony has before, so I do agree with him and others, so I don't have any things to add yet.
Just to add around that, because you both mentioned social media, is there a concern, and actually the Ipsos Mori presentation was really interesting because it said social media was one of the main sources of information for young people around climate change and sustainability. Is there a concern when if young people are getting their information from there that actually it's difficult to tell which is sort of accurate information? How much do you, yeah.
Okay, so that is a biggest challenge for the youth when they depend too much on the information on the internet, because like we do depends on the social media, because thanks to social media we can connect with others. And so I could say that youth people, we should be conscious about any information, every information, to whether is it a accurate or a official. And I could say that youth people, we should more focus on the information that from the accurate news or accurate social networking, so that we won't be lack of the information.
Thank you. So it's preventing many opportunities, but also a challenge of navigating that information and working out what's accurate. Thank you. Suksavoy, you want to come in? Oh, you're on mute.
So yeah, I just would like to add more regarding to social media, because we also work in this and we even have the communication team. So for example, our team, we have 150 members that all have to prepare the content to raise awareness. So we have the training for them. Okay, when you do the research, what the shots you have to look, and also we have a communication team that have to review or check all the sources and also the news. So this is 150 members that contribute to raise awareness, and also they also gains the knowledge and also the information before they speak or they raise awareness. So this is some approach that we do, and also train them how to do research and also things about the social media engagement. This is something that I think is worked quite well for us.
Thank you. No, that's really interesting to hear those reflections. And the sort of moving on to sort of a slightly different but related topic, and we do have time if anybody in the audience wants to put in a question, then we might have time to address it. So do put questions in. Is around eco-anxiety. It's been mentioned a few times already in this session, and the concern that actually if we talk sort of dogmatically to young people about and give them the responsibility for addressing climate change, it can result in sort of a sense of despair or hopelessness, or climate anxiety or eco-anxiety. So I guess my question, and this is really to everyone, from the young people to the young people, but also the kind of educationalists, how do we work to ensure that we're supporting young people to understand and empowering them to act, but not giving them the responsibility and making them feel anxious and getting eco-anxiety? And I don't know who wants to have a go at answering that first, because it would be really interesting to get perspectives of both, as I say, the young people, but also those sort of responsible for more formal education. So how do we address these topics and empower young people without giving them eco-anxiety?
Can I start first?
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, Chris and I have done many activities related to school students. Okay, so usually what we do is we give them a topic, and then we put them like a challenge on Facebook. For example, we say, okay, why don't you guys submit any kind of video that doing something about climate change, or get rid of some dengue fever, or so, and we put the price on it. Okay, so student submitting video or some artwork or some ideas, and then one of the best one, we ask them, we would like to see how many shares that they get, how many likes that they get, okay, who who would get the highest number, okay, that will be grand prize. So this way, we are challenging them in a way that they can distribute their information and make it more visible to the society. And it's kind of fun because it's a gamification, okay? They try to get high share, high like, okay? So in a way, it's also fun. With a small amount of money that we give it to them, they act so much on trying to get, you know, other people know that they do great job on climate change action. Thank you.
No, that's really interesting. And you've talked already also about active learning. So working with communities, having real life problems that they're addressing. And so it becomes meaningful, but they're also empowered to be making a difference. So, no, absolutely. It sounds excellent. Anthony or Tina, do you get a sense that your sort of colleagues and peers around you are feeling anxious? What can we do about that to address that? Tina, I think Anthony?
Okay, I'll go first then. Yeah, around my personal friend group, there is like a kind of climate despair. I guess like kind of like I call it a doomer mindset, and it's really easy to fall into that, and I've fallen into that too, because like a lot of times it has to do with media also. Because like a lot of times the news don't really, they do, but a lot of times it's more focused on the negatives more than anything. I think like if a lot of people my generation know about like the things we have managed to do, even in the past 20 years about climate, I think they will be more hopeful about things, because we have already put a lot of effort and done a lot. Of course, it's not fully enough. I don't think when close there, but like there's a point that we can start with. But I think this is the best point to start now. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a really important point, that actually many of the solutions, if not all of them, are there. It's just implementing them and working together to address them. And therefore that gives a sense of positivity. Thank you. Tina, did you want to add anything before I go to Sutsavoy?
Yes, so like because my Wi-Fi was lagging as when you was spoken at the question is, so the question is like how to encourage students to participate the social.
Yeah, it's also
without making them feel anxious, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so actually I have been applied and taken part in many social activities, and I have like I can feel and I can know what are the worries about the young people when they want to apply and want to be a part of a project. So I would say that young people, we should know that we are the new generation which has the responsible to change the world in the positive way, and all our impacts or all our contribution will have a big impact to change our society or just a small community in our place in a better way. And I think that young people, they should be like they should work and they should be conscious to work and experience in a suitable environment for them, because not every environment will be suitable for them to improve their skills or their mindset. So yeah, so that is my addition.
Thank you very much. Suksavoy.
Yeah, so actually I faced some issue before when we start in the beginning. For example, we start as cleaning activity, and then many people, oh, why you have to do this? And it is the responsible of the company to stop polluting plastic. It's not your responsible. Why we need to put all problem or responsible and for young people, and it first discourage our energy, especially we are the young people that we want to empower young people to do something, even it's small action. So I think many adults or many people should also support the young people even it's more action, not to point out like, okay, they should not do like this, or it's not your responsible, but some small act can make the change. And also, I think to support them, you can just maybe join the events or support them, share the initiative. This is also very meaningful, and also they feel that they are being support. I think this is very important. And after 2 years, I even realized that now we are get support for many more organizations, even from policymaker, from minister, even from the big private company. That if I think if I feel discouraged and stop at that time, maybe we will not go to this far. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And that's where the partnership that we keep coming back to across the different sectors is so important. I'll go to Tina next, because you've got your hand up, Tina.
Oh, I do agree with the previous view. Sorry, because I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yeah, so I do agree with you, because at this point I just want to say that the responsibility of encouraging students to overcome their anxious whenever they be a part of a non-profit project is also a mission of the previous generation, because the young generation, we always need a guide and we always need some support. And I could say that to help the students to overcome the anxious is not only their the young responsible. It's also depends on how the previous generation, they help us and they support us, and they share their thoughts and their experience, so that we can learn from them, and then we can enrich our knowledge and broaden our horizons.
Thank you. I think that's really important, that intergenerationality as well, isn't it? So it's partnerships across organizations, but between generations. And I think that came out in Anthony's work earlier that he shared about the young people working across generations. I'm going to just ask a final question, and I wonder, Dr. Hoong, if I could come to you, because you talked about some excellent work being undertaken in Vietnam, which is putting climate change and sustainability into education policy. And I just wondered, is that focused on knowledge, or within that education that you're providing, do you work with young people and communities to explore actions, and so that they feel empowered to do something about it? So how do we get the balance between knowledge and helping young people to act within a curriculum?
Okay. Now, this is the question, the very interesting. This means that we often put the question like it: how can we involve the school students in this education activities? It's very important. If we stay in the room, it doesn't make sense for the climate change education. But we should focus on activity that we can get involved the student and the parents, their parents and local community into the school activities. That's why we have planned for students to take part in. We have a plan for parents to take part in. Like for the young people, like students, we have planned for them to do activity outside school. You know, like working with local community. You know, bring them to the park to see how we can plant the tree to respond to climate change. You know, this means that we show the kid and we involve the kid into specific activities, not only sit in class like the kid here, like a student talking about their story, and the same in Vietnam. You know, the same in Vietnam. We cannot separate class and out class activity. They go together. And in Vietnam, very important in that in the education program, we have two parts. One part is the in-class part. You know, the kids have to sit in class. The second one is the outside class activity. So we use those very small time for this kind of activity, is activity on responding to climate change.
Brilliant, thank you, really interesting. I think we're coming to the end of our session now, but really interesting points there from everybody about the importance, I think, of working with communities and across sectors and organisations to make sure that we're addressing this collectively rather than individually, and certainly not just giving responsibility to young people, but actually engaging with them, empowering them to work with everybody else across the community in different ways. And also the really important part that formal education structures and systems have to play, but also informal, and how they should be working together, not sort of separately, in order to address this. So thank you so much to my esteemed panelists. It's been really interesting to hear your voices. Very much appreciate your time. And I'm handing back over to Bank now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicola. And of course, the 5 panelists joining us today. It's been, of course, a very rich conversation, which I'm sure all the audience would have agreed with me. So now we will then go straight to our final session for today. So for this final session, I'd like to invite Rachel Booth, consultant to the project and experts in gender inclusion, to talk through about the whole reflections of today's event and of course the way forward. So I'll pass over to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Shabbat. Can you hear me clearly? Great, okay. Hello everybody, my name is Rachel Booth. It's been my privilege to support the British Council through this project as a gender and inclusion advisor. And I've been given the honour of summing up today, and challenge of summing up the excellent presentations and the voices we've heard today. So drawing together some of the key messages, I think the sort of key strands that are coming through from the dialogue is about how climate change affects us all, but has a disproportionate impact on already vulnerable communities and young people, and especially women and girls. So gender inequalities lead to this imbalance of power and education access to resources, which have a profound impact on resilience to climate disasters. The SDGs recognise this urgency of addressing climate change and quality education and redressing gender inequalities, but we really need to bring these together to build solutions for the future. In many societies, young people are not encouraged to share their concerns and solutions to impacts of climate change due to ageism or other cultural dynamics which dismiss youth voices, particularly girls. However, today we've seen some really powerful examples of how young people who've been given support and resources to mobilise their energy and expertise have presented really powerful innovations and climate solutions to catalyse real change in their communities and their countries. So Christina Kwok, another associate of the British Council who advised on this project, conducted a valuable study that looked at countries' nationally determined contributions used for climate change action plans. For Southeast Asia, she found that very few mentioned children and young people as agents for change, and less than half talked about the role of education in climate change strategies to build resilience. Yet today we've heard how vital formal and informal education is as a key tool to equip young people with the green skills that they need to lead these dialogues and innovations. The resource pack developed by British Council, mentioned earlier by Helga, had that intention. So teaching young people to think critically, engage creatively, understand inequalities and play their part in raising awareness of climate solutions. We saw some great examples of young people putting some of these skills into practice through their infographic posters and recording their voices for today. A huge thank you to them and for their teachers and all the support people around these young people and at British Council and the FCDO for funding this project. I also thoroughly enjoyed hearing from our other youth innovators who are building movements and addressing real challenges that they've identified in their countries. And I really look forward to tracking your journeys and continuing to promote climate solutions. So if we're thinking about ways forward for various different participants of the event today, I think in our role as adults, as parents, as advisors, and often people in positions of influence who are able to direct resources and design responses, I think we've heard today that it's really time to make space for young people and to support them to exercise these skills. A key part of this support is allowing young people to fail and to try again. I can think back to many of my failures that have often been my best lessons to adapt and learn how to do better next time. This all plays a part in the process of radical, innovative thinking. So as we sign off from today, there are several key messages for different audiences. So for policymakers, I encourage you to embed these curriculums with education around SDGs, including climate education, recognizing the role of gender inequality in community resilience, and seeing young people as agents of change in SDG strategies. For donors, I'd encourage you to allow time and funds for meaningful engagement of young people in efforts to address SDGs that allows iteration and lessons to be learned. NGOs, I'd encourage you to find meaningful roles for young people to be part of decision-making forums on SDG matters that concern them. Teachers and school administrators, as we've seen today, that key support about developing critical thinking and development of knowledge around SDGs, for example, green skills and including climate change education and other SDG topics as a part of the curriculum is so vital. And for young people, thank you for what you've done so far. Your actions really do count. So please keep engaging, keep testing and iterating good ideas, keep speaking to other people about the SDGs and highlighting inequalities when you see them, and seek out the people who will encourage you and support you to engage meaningfully in efforts to address the SDGs. So we really look forward to building on this momentum from this project and from this dialogue that's been created and continuing to work with the network that's been established with the ASEAN region going forwards. So we'll be sharing findings and lessons learned from this project in the next month or so in a summary report, and we'll put that in all the key places on the British Council websites. So many thanks from me, and all the best to all the participants today in your next steps in engaging with these ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rachel. It's good I actually asked you to do this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do this by myself. So thank you very much for summarizing the whole thing and all the key insights here today. But that's all the time we do have left for today's event. So I, again, would like to thank you very much, all the panelists, all the speakers, including all the schools and the students who have taken part in this project for over the past month. So thanks again, all the participants joining on Zoom meeting today. Make sure to keep the conversation going, as Rachel has mentioned, whether you're policymakers, whether you're teachers, or even you're a young person, keep the conversation going and be engaged with the topic. If you are interested in the project itself, please feel free to visit our British Council website for further information, or of course, feel free to contact us for more information as well. For teachers and educators, a quick reminder on the resource pack. So at the moment, the resource pack are now available in English for you to download. But if you are interested for the local language version, then this again will be published later in July next month. Once again, on behalf of the British Council, we'd like to thank you, our partners for the project, the Secretariat for the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, or SEAMEO, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, all the speakers, consultants and experts taking part in this great project. My name is Chawit Uttamashai from British Council. We are very, very delighted to host you. And of course, I do want to shout out to a very special person in this project. So we'd like to shout out to Kun Book, or Benjapon Pomahat. She's the project manager who unfortunately was not able to be here with us today, which is a shame, but want to shout out to you, to your great work before closing. So thank you very much, Kap Kun Book, and thank you every audiences joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be